this. This is absolutely huge. Panel, grip this right down the inside. Everyone into the corner. There's a bit of panel rubbing. Sanchez Gonzalez is around.
A brand new season awaits, and these drivers and teams understand that today of all days, it is one where they have to put their best foot forward to say what they're all about. This is what's known as the GT Open, free for an opportunity to say, look, I can stand on top compared to my drivers around me, but you all know that you have to be absolutely firing on all cylinders. We come to a circuit that has seen so much racing that it's one of the staples of all of motorsport. Welcome to the Temple of Speed. Pay your tithing here at Monza and prove that today is your day above all others. My name's Jake Sperry, alongside with you for today's action is Craig King, as Christian Deploy sits in the director's chair using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. But what can be said about a circuit that has seen every style of racing and then some hit its hallowed ground? Let's take a look around Monza with your GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Monza. This track has a major place in racing history, not just for the legendary races, names, and cars that have been here, but because it was the third purpose-built car racing circuit in the world. It's often discussed and reverenced among fans, and especially by Italians who have nicknamed it the Temple of Speed. In fact, the Ferrari fans here are so famous for their devotion that they have been dubbed the Tifosi and never fail to show up in droves. While the real world offers only 3 feasible layouts to race on due to safety, in iRacing, the inclusion of the oval and the lack of safety concerns gives it a stunning 9 versions drivers can choose from. The modern GP layout is of course the most well known, with its long history of hosting the Italian Grand Prix. But the oval and combined circuits allow those who thirst for more speed to satiate that craving with its insanely high banking. Indeed, incredible velocities are a staple of just about every version you can race here. Draft battles are not uncommon, no matter which car you're racing. But the inclusion of the chicanes makes using an outbraking maneuver a much more tricky way of overtaking. The circuit is notorious for drivers getting tangled up with each other while running side by side in these slow and cumbersome corners. In fact, one of the greatest dangers for drivers is the first few laps when the field is still clumped together and attempting to navigate them 2 and 3 wide. While there are other modern circuits with high-speed straights, the fact that Monza sits inside the Royal Park just north of Milan and is still tightly lined with trees heightens the sense of speed here. All in all, Monza is unmatched in its history, thrills, and great racing. Its significance in motorsports history and culture is sure to be unchallenged for years.
Craig, this is an incredible place to go and have battling out there. And this circuit here, which is just 5Ks away from the industrial city of Milan, this is what we would call racing and sim racing royalty.
I think for some people, they would call this place Mecca, but we have to address the elephant in the room, Jake, and that is the first chicane. You're almost going back on yourself for the first part of it before you go straight down into the curve of Pisanio. And we have seen this year in the real world what can happen on the start of any race in the GT3, so drivers will have to watch out for that. But then it just gets a little bit calmer on the track, and look for some fantastic flowing through both Lesmos. That probably one of my favorite parts of the track, the ebbs and flows of both right-handers. It's going to be an interesting day for a lot of drivers because they will have to just be aware. It's going to be a bit of a slipstream race, I feel, for the first 2 days.
Well, one thing we will need to know, this is a 6-round championship. Each race, or each race meeting, has 2 races attached to it. So this is the first race out there, which is the sprint. Round 1 of 6, so only 25 minutes to get yourself up to speed in these GT3 spec cars. Now, the result will set the way that it goes for the master race grid that is coming up, and a chance here to talk about that all-important balance of performance as it gets itself set and ready to go here today. Because, Craig, as far as I'm looking here, this is a really interesting balance of performance. They're all limited to 47% of a fuel tank, but no car has ballast that is effectively 0. There's pluses and minuses all about. And there is no car out there on 100% power. They are, again, either restricted or even boosted in the case of the Aston Martin Vantage.
Yeah, earlier in the year, iRacing introduced the ability to take weight away and add power to the cars. So the Aston Martin, the only car that's had power added to it. Just because it's got power added to it doesn't mean that it's going to be a rocket on the straight, as you'll see when we come into qualifying. That's not exactly the car that everyone has been going for today. And the weight changes, really love this now, Jay. Adding and subtracting weight, I feel it's just been a game changer on iRacing.
Well, speaking of these game changers, qualifying has come and gone, and the grid is now going to stack up here as follows. So it's Jan Senkovsky for Team Huysingveld, number 49, in control, with negative delta by simgear.gg in second, with Velin Vitanov Pro-Am there in second place. You got then Marcelo Caserta for Absolute Acelith in third position, and Ryan Fuqua for Hyperion Racing then in fourth. Lars Wetzig will start fifth for German Sim Racing Cyan with Team Huysingveld's 48. Chris Toms there in sixth. Colin David starts this one in seventh for German Sim Racing Red, and Absolute Acelith number 169 here today. Nicholas Volpato is in eighth place and has been warned for the incorrect number.
Yeah, some of the drivers warned for their incorrect numbers. Andreas Germer will be driving for Firefly E-Racing, the silver car in ninth, and the red car for Firefly was Sven Landgraf in 10th. Pascal Hall for the Sudsport Racing Chrome in 11th, and John Ayama there for Absolute Acelith once again. Another Absolute Acelith in 13th with Damanio Bellinio, and then in 14th it's Charlie Dowse for the Lion GE Academy. Marco Bruckner will then be in 15th, another Firefly E-Racing driver. And then in 16th, another Absolute Acelith driver, in Alessandro Bianozzi.
So, 21 cars here today. Sudsport Racing Gold, then through Dominic Jamal Nebel there in 17th. Jordan Svetanov 18th for Negative Delta by simgear.it. Firefly E-Racing Blue have Stephen Freiberghaus there in 19th. That is a claim for the greatest name in iRacing I've ever heard, ever. Manuel Schaefer then in 20th place, and Marco Petracchi there in 21st. Lion GP Academy and Absolute Acelith then respectively as they get themselves set. So already rolling here along the back stretch as they look to start themselves off in sim time, coming up towards 20 past 4 in the afternoon at a 38-degree track temperature. So this one should get colder as it goes, but I don't think it's going to play that much of a factor. But what will play a factor is that run down to turn 1, because they have a very late acceleration zone, and it is going to make a whole heap of difference out there. Jan Senkovsky loves running about in the Ferrari 296. Velin Vitanov is in the Mustang, and then behind that, Marcello Caserta in the Lamborghini. Fuqua, Vetzig, they're all there, they're all lining up, they're all trying to say, look, we're going to be the ones that say we are on top without any worries at all, waiting for the mark to hit that acceleration zone to start the season off properly, which is at this area right now. Green flag drops, and we are underway immediately. The top four fall directly into line as they will charge down towards the Retafilo for the first time, and aggressive on the brakes they are going to have to be as it bottlenecks up, but it is slightly more open than what we've seen in a spinner already. Volpato is there, track's jammed.
Yeah, track's jammed as well, and I think that was just a little bit at the 299 trying to get it. Volpato was trying to get around, and I think it was Hull that just had a small tap there. They're back both running, but that just goes to show how tight it can be and a little bit treacherous at the start. That means a lot of drivers gaining a lot of places at the start. And that Lion car already up 7 places for Marcelo Costera right now at the front of the field, currently sitting P3. And now they've got past the worst of it, Jake. Now I think drivers can rest if Les Velin makes mistakes and go off on those cold tires.
Yeah, you can't afford to do that, not in the early stages. Velin Vitanov then sees Marcello Caserta moving up into second then in the category, and absolutely fine. Vitanov with 2.2 seconds over Andreas Schirmer then in for Firefly iRacing Silver, so a huge difference maker off of the start. So keep an eye out then, the Pro-Ams then and the Pros by category, all in different positions and fighting different battles out there. There's Lars Vetzig, 4th at the moment, 5th on circuit, looking to try and pilot the Eagle through on Hyperion Racing, and Ryan Fuqua, who's not budging at all, heading to the Parabolica and looking to get the drive off of the exit to say, hey, look, I want to get this one back over to the Retafilo and say I'm going to have a chance. Now, I am getting word that Race Control are investigating the start procedure here for negative delta by simgear.gg, who are 3rd on the road right now and under pressure from Hyperion.
That could be very interesting later in the race. We'll wait to see. Of course, this is a sprint race, and you would like to be able to get a good result here to make sure that you don't have any issues coming by later on. But now comes the toughest part of the race, and it's just this run down to the chicane. Sometimes drivers get a little bit of a tunnel complex there, and they'll see the overspeed thinking they can make a run, can't make a run through this at all. As you see there, that is Sabatanov as well going by, trying to get onto Manuel Schaefer. That start was very chaotic, Jake. I think we're going to have a quick look at what happened there. It really does feel like this is meat in the middle, and it's so tight around here. This really feels like it's a street circuit for the first corner.
So Volpato on the outside here. Oh, he just gets a tap for his troubles, and that's how quickly it goes wrong. It was with the Sudspeed car, who also went around as well, so didn't actually gain from that. But when you're trying to get in and you're about 8th, 9th, 10th in the line, you're having to hit the brakes about 50 to 70 meters earlier than you would do otherwise, for the fear of that massive breakup effect. Now, it's an older scan here, this Monza circuit, than what is there in the real world, because as Sven Landgraf then just breezes on by and says, look, I am going to have that place. I am not going to sit back and let Jordan Svetanov have anything out there, as now it will be Dominic Jamal Nabel looking for a way to get the red and black to move to the inside at the Parabolica. It doesn't quite get the line necessary then to make it work. There is always the concern, lap 1, turn 1, that you don't put yourself in a position where you go and get an incident. The circuit, if they were to run it now on what is the current circuit, it would be even worse there because it's even tighter.
Yeah, and I do prefer this version, and I think Dominic Humanable will get this overtake done. And it just also goes to show that some drivers, they approach the chicane so differently. Look even now, when you're racing, the Patrese making an overtake then, it's the way that some drivers will probably do a lift, then a brake. Some drivers will brake a bit early. Some drivers will just accept that their normal braking is good enough. And I think that's where you just get the issue there, because everyone's trying to do a different thing on the first lap. and that just causes that whole moment. I wonder if the slight free wide that Aussie Greg Hill would be telling people, well, Aussie Greg, sorry, not Greg Hill, might have also just spooked some of the drivers out there.
So there is going to be drivers who are looking around. Charlie Dorse here is one of them for Lion GP Academy, looking to go up to third then in the not too distant future. But he's now trying to figure out, okay, what is it going to be? There is Damiano Bellino here for the Absolute Absolute Ace 104 car that is out there at the moment, really trying to get the drive away from Dawson. Is managing that as Chris Toms here, now looking to line one up to try and get the pass sorted here. It's Ryan Fuqua who's there just in front, so Huysingveld wanting 2 cars on the pro podium.
Yeah, and I don't think you'd be looking for a move into the Parabolica, because if you make a move into the Parabolica, you don't have the speed, you don't have the exit here for this whole straight to come down to the Rettifilio chicane. So maybe at the end of the race, you may see a driver go for that move, but at this stage of the day, probably want to be a little bit safer. We've still got 19 minutes left as well of this sprint race, and normally sprint races can be the more chaotic races, and we've seen that already as well, as drivers trying to get by Nabel. He gets a look of Schaefer trying to battle on Landgraf and gets that done. And on board with a man using the triple monitors. And I tell you what, Jay, I've never seen a driver so focused in my life. Look at it. Not a single movement of that head.
No, very much. Just trying to find that line. Has got to the inside and says, right, here we go. I'm going to try and tip this one in on the inside. Yep, easy done. Got it then sorted. Good sport goal. Get the pass. Sven Landgraf losing out for it. 15 seconds time penalty has come in for car 166 out there on circuit, and that is going to be the Sudsport Racing Chrome entry with Pascal Hull, who will now be seeing that for the lap 1 collision, and that is not a shock out there as Hyperion suddenly realised their tow rope of Velinvitanov has gone away into the distance. Now they're going to have to fight Chris Toms on their own, and it's a battle of top-end speed all of a sudden here, as it becomes a case of Mustang versus very nippy Ferrari.
Ford versus Ferrari. I wonder if we could make a film out of that. No, it would never work. But it just goes to show how good the BOP is. The balance of performance working really well right now, because no car is getting an advantage here on the straight. Slipstream isn't that strong nowadays in GT3, not just on sim, but in the real world. They have to earn this position. They have to earn this going down, and I wonder if Toms will be able to get a move. He might have to late brake here. That's what he's trying. Puts a little bit of overlap, puts that fear into him, and gets that inside line. Doesn't get the slowdown either. Really good to see there. The last thing you want when trying to attack that first curve there at the Rettifilio is to get the slowdown. Great work from Toms.
Yeah, it's a nice pass. Velinvitanov back through on absolute ace-list, so second on the road. There's Landgraf, then back 13th in class for Firefly iRacing, who have 3 at the foot of the table at the moment, through Mirko Bruckner in bronze, Stephen Freiberghaus in blue, and they do have absolute ace-list in the middle of that, who are the actual final 2 cars down at the bottom, who have just made a way through past Landgraf. Hull then with the 15 seconds that are going to have to be added on at the end of the race. You'd feel they need absolutely everything here, because as it stands, this car is going to be at the bottom, and then some. Wide goes Svetinov through Lesmo number 1, over to number 2, the slightly more open corner rather than the closed apex you see through part 1. Loses out potentially another one, because here comes John Meyer then to play.
You lose the momentum out of Lesmo 2. That's going to be another issue there, and you see that Lordin having to let go. Amaya will take that position, and a very comfortable move. But at the same time, even though this isn't the sprint race, drivers also know that this is important to try and make sure they hold on to whatever position they can here. Because remember, this result sets the grid for the Master, the big 65-minute race later on. I wonder if this is what Marcelo Castello is trying to do for the absolute Selif. Right now, also Sven Landgraf going as well, just because we've got one battle doesn't mean there's battles elsewhere, and this is great racing, and you start to see the field spread out a little bit more now, Jake. Only 26 seconds, though, between first and last after that big traffic jam on the first lap.
Oh, big blink out there by Svetanov as he lifts out of the brakes compared to John O'Meara, absolute acelith. And so that's the change. Landgraf then watches Marco Petracchi move on through and say, look, I'm having that and no one else is going to be telling me otherwise. Another place gain then in terms of the move of absolute acelith trying to climb up the order. They've got a lot more time in the next race coming up, but you got to do anything you can here in the sprint to give you a chance in the Master to say that's where the big points are going to be scored, and strategy is going to play its hand out there through then the Della Roggia and over towards Lesmo number 1, Sven Landgraf, then hoping to remain steadfast on the back of Marco Petracchi. But here's the key, that Lamborghini, God, isn't carrying as much speed through the corners. Landgraf right now is trying to bulldoze his way through, and that's not going to work. You need to be dainty even though you're in a big muscular Mustang.
You got the egg. Let's just put it under Sven's throttle there. Got the word twisted up there for a moment. Really smooth through those corners at Lesmo. Allow them to just be a little bit faster out there, but not enough that Landgraf can do to make a move and having to go back. But you said it. Hang on 1 second. Are we going to see Costura go for this time? Yeah. And this is the Lamborghini that's got the feet over the Ford. And he gets that done. Vitanov back down into third overall once again, but such a commanding lead in the Pro-Ams.
Yeah, and that commanding lead he needs because they've just been adjudicated then, the 181 team, a 5-second time penalty for failing to hold the corridor on the race start. So you have to leave a generative space for both lines to form. If you move across too early and close down the space, they will ding you at race control. And Velin Vitanov then has been caught with a 5-second time penalty, still leads his category by 1.7 seconds. So tough there for Velin Vitanov to go and deal with, but that is a penalty that has come through on the board. There it is, failing to hold corridors 5 seconds, and so that effectively would put them just in front of German SimRacing Red and Colin David.
They're going to have to also then think about that. They need to hold this position now. They can't afford to be battling the pros if they want to hold on to this lead in the Pro-Ams. And here are the rest of the Pro-Ams, and there is the 104, it's the 03, whatever you want, it won't be for sure. The Mario Bellinio trying to just hold this battle right now. Try and catch up to the front of Andreas Germer, who's just holding on to that P2. But Andreas will now know if he can use some of these pro drivers to get a bit of the slipstream, Jake, he might be able to close that gap. He's got a good chance here of closing that gap to try and win this race on the virtue of that time penalty.
Yeah, needs to really start moving here, does Germa, to get position. There's Dominic Jamal-Nabel, who is holding his ground quite nicely on the back of Manuel Schaefer there for Lion GP Academy. On the road, this is 12th and 13th, but for 5th and 6th in the Pro-Am standings, this battle then will work along the main straight here towards turn 1. Nabel gets a huge rate of knots as he gets this one to slow down, and the pass made an almost contact behind as Pascal Hurl says, right, let's make the Lion GP Academy sandwich.
Well, remember, yeah, that's just, I almost going to correct you there, but you said that absolutely right. I can't believe I almost got that wrong, but did you notice how just calm Nabel was there? Didn't even look up until it was finally, yeah, that's a nice overtake, though. Great move from Charlie Dalser there to get that for Lion. Another good move from Lion. That's going to put them into P3 in the Pro-Ams, and this is an important battle to start the season. It feels like it's the introduction day, though, Jake. They're all just trying to work out where they are. It's like a freshers fair. Wouldn't know that myself. Never went.
Well, it does feel a bit like a freshers fair in the sense that everyone's trying to introduce themselves to everyone and see what they're all about. Charlie Dorse with a lovely pass on Damiano Bellino for that position. That's a little wide, that's a lot wide, and off goes Charlie Dorse, having to save it through the gravel, using the junior circuit to bring himself back online. But Damiano Bellino is going to take that one away, and is going to comfortably take that one away then with the pass available. So nice stuff then on the change. Pascal Hull then back again for Sud Sport with the 15-second penalty, looking over to the inside, but not quite close enough to go and get that done. And critically on this season as well, Craig, you got to think, what have we got here? Monza, then the Red Bull Ring, which will feel very similar to Monza, Mangy Core at round 3, Imola round 4, then Watkins Glen and the Adelaide Street Circuit to end the season out on October 4th. Here's Pascal Hull thinking the inside, but the best defence is a good offence then into the opening corner. Look at that for aggro then. Dominic Jamal Nabel under pressure. Schaefer couldn't do anything to get the pass.
Yeah, and I think Schaefer just held everybody up there, making that move. And maybe Pascal probably didn't have to make that move there, tried to be a little bit cheeky. I don't blame him for the overspeed, but Manuel just probably just made the wrong mistake there. Can they do it again? Oh, he moves over. As Pascal's coming in, there's going to be contact there. Pascal's going to get by. Well, he did initiate the contact, but I wonder if that gets looked at, if they look at it. Now, the steward's going to say that Schaefer may have moved there at the very last moment.
Well, was it deliberate in terms of its move, and was it something that has initiated that contact? It certainly would have slowed down the braking prowess of Pascal Hull, who would have had to have moved across to allow more space under braking, which is always very dangerous, and that very much managed to make that happen. Now we've got a penalty in for car number 70 out there for failing to hold the corridor. That is Absolute Acelith, who are running in 11th place. Alessandro Benozzi is going to take those 5 seconds, and on top of that, there'll be a penalty in for the number 5 car of Hyperion Racing, also for failing to hold the corridor as well. So they're going to get very big on that. Hull, though, through, and I feel there on that pass on the belt that they needed that one, and they needed that one pretty quick to get by the number 6 car out there, who is there in that 6th place. So very good stuff then on the changeabout. They realised quite quickly, well, if that car's quicker, let's go and try working together.
Now, is it because the car's quicker, or is it because the teammates are now able to do the IndyCar shuffle? I do wonder if that could also be a factor here. We'll wait to see, but Pascal's got some really good pace right now, and he doesn't have the right track on the side of his wall to give him some pace maps there, but he's got an idea of what he has to do. You just go right a few times with a couple of lets. This is the man who's been leading non-stop, and ever since that first lap, was able to stretch the lead out to over a second, and now it's almost 2.5 seconds. Great driving here from Jan as he continues on. And I love seeing everyone's setups, though, Jake, because if you notice, we've had a lot of GT cockpits. We've also had a Formula-style pit. I don't know what your preference would be. I know you've got a controller, but for me, I just don't like the idea of my feet being higher than my legs, my body.
Well, it depends on how you drive and what your style is, and Jan Senkovsky's been around this sim for a very long time. I go back 6-7 years. He used to be unstoppable in the iRacing VLN series that was out there on iRacing. He just won and won and won and won. He's got a smile on his face as he goes around the Parabolica, and part of Team Hoisingveld, meaning that he's probably got everything Hoisingveld that he can possibly think of running there, which will be very, very good for his pace and style. But he did lose time over that last lap there. 2/10 for Marcelo Caserta to pull it down. 7 minutes to go. John Amaya will go a little bit further back too for Absolute Acelith here in the 170, the GT3 team. He's trying to now work his way past Manuel Schaefer.
Trying to look to see what he can do. This Mercedes having a little bit of a struggle for the Lion GP. What can Manuel do? He's not going to be able to have much of a defense here. Amaya's going to get alongside, but just doesn't have the braking. And the last of the late breaker does belong to that Mercedes, but that was a tight entry line there from Amaya. And I think that also cost both of them, because he almost had to go on the slowdown there. So many drivers attacking that first corner of the Rettifilio chicane. I've been surprised we've not seen more slowdowns today, but he's still got another shot here down into Variante della Roggia, but can't make it done.
Blocked it again late, did Manuel Schaefer. This time he did so before the braking zone, but he is moving across. He's covering the move, and the Lion GP Academy are going as late as they dare to make those decisions then in the Mercedes. So they're keeping their focus clear. No retirement then from this race as Velin Vitanov, your leader of the Pro-Ams, on the back of Absolute Aetylith here, the number 69 team, and Marcelo Caserta there in the Lamborghini. And for the moment, I think they'll be very happy with what they're doing, but they are pretty much, I believe, on that last lap. They managed to pull a 5-second gap over German SimRacing Cyan, and so that's given them enough to say when they cross the line, they'll be classified in 5th place rather than in 6th.
Yeah, that's actually also good because it also means for Vitanov that it's going to hold on to that lead after that 5-second penalty for the start of the race. And crazy to see how many people have had issues with that ruling of holding the corridor. Just goes to show that we don't have a system on iRacing that the drivers are used to, but every league has a different way of starting procedures, and it can catch people out at the start of the season. This is one that could catch a driver at the start of the season. Amaya's going to try and go around the outside here at the Retifilio. I think he's got this done. Around the outside, the first part. Lovely done. Can he get on the throttle? Absolutely blocks all the lines there for Schaefer. Fantastic move there. And speaking of Schaefer, he does get a 5-second penalty for blocking.
I'm looking around at it here, and I'm seeing it actually as a 10-second penalty on my board for blocking. So I'm keeping that in mind. As to the outside, inside, it's going to be again defended well by John Amaya. Suddenly, a Jordan Svetinov is then brought to the party then with 4:06 on the clock into Lesmo number 2. So we'll continue to keep a very close eye out there. It is marked on the score that the 111 car then is getting the 10 seconds worth of penalty. And of course, it is marked as the 111 out there, Schaefer, because they've also got the incorrect car number out there because they're in the sim on the number 6 car today. So the 111 Manuel Schaefer gets with that actually edited to a drive-through penalty. It's been upgraded to a drive-through penalty for them, and they are going to have to serve that in the final stages of this race.
And that's not because of the first block. It's actually the second block that we saw. Because he had the second block, and there it is officially there on the race control, he had that second move that the stewards decided was another block. And that's why it's gone from a 5-second for a drive-through. And that just goes to show that you cannot play today. You've got to be a little bit more smart, a little bit more respectful when it comes to the drivers out here today. You don't want to be causing any incidents out there, as these are drivers also hoping that they can get it going, because of the fact you've got Vitanov in the top 3 overall in the race. This is 4th and 5th on the field, but this is also a battle for the last spot on the podium. And can Huskenveld get 2 cars on the podium?
Huysingveld wants it, Chris Toms has it, but Ryan Fuqua at the moment, remember, has 5 seconds for blocking. So that's going to be in the back of their mind going, okay, podium is pretty much under lock, but on circuit, can we get there? Hyperion are looking around at German SimRacing Red. They're just ahead of them in terms of 5-second metric right now. Colin David is the one who's going to have a lot of work to try and pull that gap down in the final couple of minutes. And so every single second is going to matter as they charge out then of Ascari and over towards Parabolica.
Such a beautiful livery. For years, they've used this same livery, and we're just seeing the back of it on this Ferrari. We don't need to see anything else, but we see the whole car. What a livery this is. And this is just, not only is it just a striking livery, it's a striking car as the white flag comes by. Doesn't need to worry too much, just Tom's about this. Just needs to make sure he gets it to the end. Interesting developments in front of them, though, because look at this. Vitanov would love to get a P2 overall in the race.
Velin Vitanov knows that it would give him grid position for the next race up, and he's not going to get the look at the Retifilo. They're going to be shy of going another lap by 1.5 seconds by the looks of things, with that fastest lap then from Jan Senkovsky, who's been absolutely flying. Vitanov looking now for the Della Roggia, just sitting through the Biasino. Schaefer then with the mark coming in for his penalty stop that he needs to, will take him out of contention. Not good enough on the brakes from Vitanov against Marcelo Caserta. There might be an element here on this final lap of just holding back a little bit, knowing that the margin is there for my category and not necessarily need to go all out to beat Caserta, because that's not the aim of the game today. Toms ahead of Fuqua. We know Fuqua's got the 5 seconds worth of time penalty and currently is cleared by 2/10 over German SimRacing Red. Was officially 1/10 quicker on that last lap, so can't afford to slow down, can't afford to get into the nitty-gritty here with Chris Toms as they work through the left and the right then of the Ascari chicane, but out in front it's pretty crystal clear what the gap looks like for the other Team Heusingveld car that has walked into a dominant position, has built that gap, has run away with confidence and has said, quite simply put, over everybody else, this is my start to the season. Come try and match me. Heusingveld, one of the best teams when it comes to this championship. And Jan Senkowski gets it done for the 49. Caserta second. And it's your Pro-Am win for Velin Vitanov, even with 5 seconds worth of penalty.
That means that Goma will have to just accept the P2. And that will also be a great P3 here. Is, well, for Milenio. As more drivers come on by. Only 2 drivers yet to, well, 1 driver retired early as this is still a battle happening on the track. Can Landgraf just hold on at the line with his teammate behind him? Well, the answer is yes. Landgraf holds on from Freiburg House, and Freiburg House takes that. They weren't really going aggressive there at the back, but remember, this will set up the grid for the big race. And for some drivers, that's going to be important.
It will be, because if you've had a bad race one, you're going to need a long way back to go and get exactly what you need. If you've had a good race one, well, more of the same is going to be needed. So it's Jan Senkowski in control and winning by almost 3 seconds ahead of Marcelo Caserta with the category of GT3 Pro. Chris Toms finding himself on the podium. Ryan Fuqua critically will lose out the position of 4th to Lars Vetzig there, as 4th and 5th will change by the time penalty, but Colin David will not get enough. Alessandro Vanozzi then will finish the class out in 7th position overall. Craig, GT3 Pro-Am, a different affair.
Yeah, a very different affair. As we go, Willem Vitanov will be in the victory corner there today. Andreas Germer will take 2nd, and Domanio Bellinio will be 3rd. Charlie Dulce will take 4th. Pascal Hole 5th. Then it's Dominic Yamal Nabel in 6th. John Amaya, we saw that great battling with him and Yorodin Stivanov. They will finish 7th and 8th, respectively. And there is, I believe, just another page of drivers. Of course, there is as well. Micro Bruckner will be in 9th. Stephen Freiburg House will take 10th. Then Landgraf will be 11th. Nicholas Popalto 12th. Manuel Schaefer 13th. And Marco Petracchi will be in 14th.
So, some wonderful action then that we have seen through the first part, but we got more to come up along the other side of this, because we're doing more than just dealing with a sprint. We've got the master format that is out there in play. Suddenly we go from 25 minutes to 65 minutes worth of racing action, and they are now going to be very alert to the fact of that 47% fuel tank that is going to now bring itself into play. And this should, in theory now, Craig, turn this from an absolute out-and-out sprint to a 2-stop race here today.
Yeah, remember that 47% fuel tank means that they're not even going to go the whole length on one pit stop. They have to work on that. They also have to then try and see, can they stretch out some of these fuels? So this is where you look at some of these teams now finishing alongside one another in the sprint, because that gives you the opportunity to use each other to basically save some fuel down on the straights. That could be a very interesting situation for the drivers. And of course, the BOP still the same. But I think the key thing here, when you look at something to circle, 65 minutes, not 60 minutes, Jake. Those extra 5 minutes equates to, what, an extra 2 laps around here for what you would normally have in an hour-long race. That could be an issue.
Well, it can, because Monza, you think, how long am I spending my time with right foot planted to the floor? And often it's well over 75% of the lap. So I'd be turning around. There might be circuits later on in the calendar where a 47% fuel tank limit, you might be able to just squeak it out. But here, around this second, or this circuit, I think you'd be turning around and going, yeah, it's a very firm two-stop race, and we're very much looking at 25, 26 minutes as the absolute limit of what the fuel tank is going to be capable of doing. So when you've got that a little bit more set in stone here around the Royal Park of Monza, as we take a lovely zoom on around with no cars out there on circuit here for us to go and have a look at, you start wondering, Craig, whether, you know, this is just going to feel very simply put like it's a sprint, or if there is nuance that can be played here by sitting in the draft of someone else.
I feel that we're going to have that feeling of a 65-minute sprint race. I think we are going to be dealing with that. However, with the ability of the fuel, I do wonder if we're going to see a lot of trains happening in this. I know there's only 21 cars out there, but that's still enough to have a train, because the train can be classified as 3 or 4 cars. So I think we'll be seeing that a lot. And one of the things that the stewards might want to clamp down on, because I do see some teammates around one another, bump drafting. Don't know what the rules are. Don't know what the official rules are, Jake. You might have the playbook at hand, but that could come into force by some of these drivers, because bump drafting, well, we saw what could happen with the pro drivers last weekend at Spa. Could happen here when we come to the big race.
It very much can. Ryan Fuqua then out then on circuit and having a very nice, calm drive then around getting that final section of practice sorted in the warm-up. This is your last chance, really, to get a feel of what we are dealing with here and how important this is going to be between now and the race that sets up in 5.5 minutes. How critical it's going to be to just set yourself up, put yourself in mind, know how you've got to just put the time together and say, look, this is what we're capable of.
Yeah, and I think really the sprint race would have given some drivers an idea of exactly what pace we may be seeing by some of these other drivers, and I wonder if that's going to really just set the standard of some drivers. They're not going to be making any last-minute changes to these setups, but they also be knowing that they probably got a different setup here to what they had for the sprint race due to the fuel, so that's going to be another factor. One thing as well, we talk about factors, big factor here, track temp now 37 Celsius. It is 5 o'clock in the evening here in Italy on the Sim, or the Sim Italy. And the wind, we haven't talked a lot about that. It's barely southwest, coming from the southwest. So the whole start-finish straight, you've got a tailwind. You're coming down to the Parabolica, you've got a headwind. Everywhere else on the track, it's a side wind. And you think about all those corners, that is going to deliver quite a bit of stress to the cars. They are big cars, but you will feel that 13 kilometers an hour when it comes to the wind.
Yeah, it will move the car a little bit here, and they're going to be keeping a very close eye on that. And what they'll also be going to try and push on forward for is driver of the day, and that is going to be important as they look to set it out. The driver of the day award is going to be awarded over each race. It's announced then for so if you see it at round 1, you'll see it announced then for round 2, and it is all about trying to set yourself up the lowest instant point count, most overtakes, the position factor that you've got. There's a lot that gets accounted into it through the data that is driven. And so at the end of the season, all drivers that have found themselves in the award are thrown into a pot, and 2 drivers are eligible then to receive a 1-hour coaching session then, Craig, from the real-world racing driver, Leon Ager.
I've actually had coaching on the sim before. Let me tell you, very helpful, very helpful. And no matter what pace you are, no matter what experience you are, just anything that can just help you, just etch another couple tenths out of your time is so important. And also just picking a real life driver's mind, just to get an idea of mindset on the track. Could be seeing 3 or 4 different webcams here today, Jake. And here's an interesting one. Someone was stone-faced there, not moving at all until he had to look up at the mirror. Some drivers are a little bit more animated. Sometimes just the mentality when you're in that seat can also affect your pace out there.
Yeah, that mentality, I think, is going to be everything as far as the GT Open is concerned, and Marcelo Caserta will be hoping for a good run. And you see this actually as part of what modern GT3s are all about. We're done with rear view mirrors. We now have the rear view camera that is then in play.
Yeah, I love this though. Especially one thing I'd love to see on the sim is to have how it is like in the real world, where you get the ability to go if the camera detects a car, it puts an arrow there to show you here's the car right behind you. Just be careful, just in case you can't see it. I know some drivers don't run with that, Jake. They like to use those virtual mirrors that some cars have. But personally, I do love having a nice little LCD screen beside me, because I can't really be bothered to look up. I've got a shallow neck, Jake.
Yeah, Freiburg House there, just making that push around. And I know a lot of people don't like looking up and say, look, I want all my information instantly. And for the moment, I look at Freiburg House. This would be a driver, I think, that wants a lot of information and wants to go and get all of that working sorted and saying, right, with a minute and a half to go, how much info do I have to go and make this race drive from nearer the back of the field to charge forward?
Yeah, these drivers at the back of the field, because remember, we had quite a mix-up in the field because of that lap 1 incident which blocked the track. I think that's going to change up a lot of the plans here, because now you've got drivers who feel like they're going to start this long race in the wrong position. And I wonder if that's going to have a play on what some of these drivers want to do. I like working in the pack myself. So if you were to ask me, and I'm going to preempt your question there, Jake, what would you do if you're working in the pack? Be safe. Look for the opportunities. You don't need to be aggressive early. If you have the pace, go for it. Because it is going to be a slow start. There are going to be people concertinaing up, but the positions will come to you. If you keep safe, they may all have moments around you. You might be able to take advantage. So that's going to be the key. And remember, 65 minutes. We might call it a 60-minute sprint, but it is still a long race with a long way to go.
So, who, after dealing with a sprint, is going to be the master of the master races that are coming up? And they will all know and understand where their grid slot puts them in, because it's exactly the same position of where they were in racing. Ryan Fuqua setting the fastest lap in the warm-up with a 1:47.8, just looking to try and understand this as the circuit gets a little bit cooler as we go later into the day, as the checkered flag will come out then in warm-up on this SimRacing Republic GT Open series that is brought to you courtesy of iStewards, iStrategy, Ellie Academy, and P1 Docs. Your grid looks as follows then. For the Master, Team Hoisingveld 49 will be on this pole position and are going to be on pole position very happily then with their efforts and attempt, because they are going to have absolute Aetherlith 69 alongside with them for company in the form of Marcelo Caserta, Jan Senkowski at the front. Then it's Velen Vitanov in third in the 181 for Negative Delta by SimGear.gg. Chris Toms fourth there for Team Hoisingveld 48. Hyperion Racing fifth with Ryan Fuqua. Then it's Lars Wetzig and Colin David for the German SimRacing Cyan and Red teams. Firefly Racing Silver had Andreas Germer there in eighth.
To the next page we'll go, and Demanio Benino will be in ninth. Charlie Dulce will take 10th out there for Lion GP, and Alessandro Bianuzzi will take the absolute ASIF car into 11th. Pascal Hall will be 12th for Supersport Racing Chrome, and Dominic Yamal Nebel in that unlucky 13th. Then it's John Amaya in 14th, and Loredin Savananov in 15th. Marco Bruckner will be 16th.
Over to 17th, and now you see Stephen Freiburg House there for Firefly, and it's only Firefly, Lion, and Absolute Acelith who are there, because you've got Sven Landgraf then, Nicholas Volpato in 19th in the 169 for the Acelith 02, and then you've got Lion GP Academy of Emmanuel Schaefer after the drive-through late, and Marco Petracchi will have work to do from 21st position. They have been at the foot of the table all day long and did not find the finish in race one. They were 3 laps down coming across the line. I find it very cool where they line up, because, Craig, this is where you get the old circuit and the new circuit that comes together, the bridge that comes over the top. You wouldn't understand what that bridge is if you're over on the top on the banking underneath it. Suddenly you realize, oh, wow, what an incredible circuit.
Not only that, what an incredible sight. What places in the world still have, you're going to correct me on this when I say this, what places in the world still have the old parts of the track still there that people can look at? It's hard to walk along that part of the track, but you can actually look at it. It's a fantastic little vantage point. I think they've removed the old oval bridge part going into the Della Roggia. But for this area, it's still there. It's still a fantastic little bit. And it adds character. And also another thing it adds, it just tightens that track up a little bit so you know that there may not be grass there, but you don't want to go any too wide there.
You certainly don't. I think the only circuit that comes to mind for me, and it's probably the most modern representation of that, is Mobility Resort Motegi, because they've decommissioned the oval there. And of course, you're not going to knock down the oval at what used to be the twin ring. And so everyone will now have a chance to say, right, this is what we are all getting ourselves ready for, and saying, okay, let's get ourselves sorted. BMW pace car currently working its way over towards Parabolica, and then 65 minutes are going to be put up on the clock with Huizenveld once again in control. They'll want a nice easy run of things, but Absolute Aetolith are going to try and prove with Marcello Caserta that this is going to be their championship to go and challenge. And remember, you get more points in the master race than you do in the sprint. So just by saying, oh, you're good over a short distance, this is still an endurance style out there if you want to go and get the all-important championship points that makes this one sing. So Senkovsky, Caserta, Vitanov, Toms, Fuqua, your top 5 as we get ourselves ready then for racing action here from the Autodromo Nazionale Monza. And they'll wait for the mark of the start line for the green flag to drop and to go in the acceleration zone. And once again, Team Huizenveld really, really good off the start. Absolute Aetolith were a little bit slow to respond, which brings negative delta there to the inside. Now they'll all weave about, trying to get themselves angle here in towards the first chicane. Everybody jamming on the brakes, unchallenged again will be Senkovsky. Have we got dramas this time? No, we don't. We've got a couple cars wide and a couple really slowing up like Petracchi, but critically, it's a much cleaner get-go as we head to the Biasino.
Yeah, can you believe it, though, that the Absolute Aetolith cars actually got caught out there. There was a free wide going into the back of the field, and one of them just got pushed wide because their teammate, and it was Amaya who took the inside of a free wide, just pushed everyone a little bit further away out of the Rettifilio chicane. It's just unfortunate to the back of the field. A little bit of drivers still trying to work their way through. Great start for that light GP car of Manuel Schaefer. Just already up 6 places here. We got on there with Germa, Andreas Germa right now doing as best as he can. He's doing a real good start here when you think about where he's going to be, because he's got to catch up to this man who's already about 2 seconds ahead of him.
Yeah, Belin Vitanov, he's been lightning fast today, and I argue is he even Pro-Am speed with the way he's been going about business, and they have been getting better and better, the Bulgarians, and it is their big team negative delta in terms of Bulgarian sim racing out there. You've got R&R as well, which is another great team, but their drivers are now starting to pick up some big signings. For example, Gabriel Ivanov has now moved over to the Auto Moves racing team. Vetzig to the inside then, looking to get this done on Ryan Fuqua, and he gets a better run out the Parabolica. And now look at this, 2 Eagles looking to soar, because Colin David now is going to decide, right, I'm going to follow in the footsteps of my teammate, give him a little push along the straight. Look at this, it's Talladega spec. They're bump drafting towards the Rettifilo, and critically, is it enough to send the move sorted? Fuqua still sticks his nose on the outside, turned inside, but won't have the drive. Great stuff to give Vetzig the pass there. That's teamwork doing the dream work.
Yeah, and DreamWorks made Shrek, but one thing for sure is Fuqua then was also able to block off any way that Colin David was able to help his teammate there, and now they're going to try and do it again. And I think this time's going to allow David. They come together, though, and I wonder if that's going to put, that's put the car that they've all just bunched up there. And once again, they were all just bunching up, trying to make it too wide through a corner, through the chicane, and everyone just bunches up, slows down. That's caused a lot of issues there. Andreas Germa, though, says, thank you very much. I'm going to keep on going. Fuqua's still trying to serve a slowdown that he finally serves on the inside.
Yeah, and now he can go up to speed, but look at them. They're 3 wide here as they go through the Seraglio and up along. They're just leaving each other room there. Charlie Dawes looks behind. Dominic Jamal Nabel there. Colin David, Ryan Fuqua there. It could have very easily have been disaster, but here at Ascari now, look, Manuel Schaefer trying to get himself involved as well behind. He's got the pass on John and Meyer side by side as they'll now work themselves here towards Parabolica once again. It's getting busy, and I would say this is more sprint coded than the sprint race that we had earlier on with how aggressive they're being on the first couple of laps. Landrath then looking around then and seeing Mirko Bruckner behind, in front John Amaya, then of course Emmanuel Schaefer, and they'll still have to go all the way to turn 1. Senkowski with the fastest lap check mark next to his name. Andreas Germer then getting it for a moment, but Nabel in the Pro-Am category gets that almost contact at the door. Schaefer and Landrath as they look to try and figure out a way past John Amaya.
Well, can they work out a way? I don't think they will. Schaefer's going to try now. Oh! A bit too aggressive there. There was a side-by-side, but it wasn't a big overlap there. And Landrath's going to have to just go into the kitty litter. And I feel that that was not exactly the right move there. Tried to outbrake through into Rettifilio Jakin. Well, he did do the outbraking, but then you've got to give the respect when you go into the next part of the chicane. And there was no space there for either driver.
Well, there might have been the call for Landrath of car clear on your out inside, and that would have been necessitated to move across and make that line basically shut down. But if you're going to dangle a nose out on the inside, you are very likely to see that drama. Jordan Svetinov, by the way, is well back now in last position. I think he had a spin through the Della Roggia on that lap too, and he did. So he had a big slide trying to get it down on the power just in front of Freiburg House. And so there are always going to be drivers here who look around and say, look, this is what I can do, this is what I can find. Colin David here is one of these drivers who's turning around and looking at trying to get past a Pro-Am in Dominic Jamal Nabel. This is both drivers who are fit in category, scrapping out for position.
P5 takes on P5, and they're just going to go around. And I don't know if David wants this, but he knows that ever since that whole moment through the Rogier chicane, was unable to really make headwinds here and having to just keep on pushing. You see the fastest lap in both classes still as Caserta retake that fastest lap, and that's going to be great there for those leaders in the pros, because that's just going to hold on to pit windows open. Is there going to be a move here? I wonder. Fuka's going to have to defend against David. Can't really make that move. David holds on to P10, and now just really trying to find a way through. More drivers trying to go side by side. Freiburg House, yet absolute overtaken from Pascal Hull.
Yeah, Hull getting the move done and saying, look, I'm going to have that. That's for 10th place. And so Sud Sport Racing are going to be moving about here with the 166. Let's take a GSRC replay here with Jordan Svetinov just trying to put the power down. And because the car squares up so quickly, he can't counter steer quick enough by putting the power down. Keeps it out of the Tech Pro barrier there on the inside. Oh, there's Damiano Bellino in trouble there for Absolute Acelid, the 104 car, then having to take a slow rotation back onto circuit here, then out after Lesmo number 1. And I'm taking a look, no contact, just looped the Lamborghini around by having too much of an aggressive turn in.
Yeah, let's watch this as well. It's also a little bit of a camber, and I wonder if he just turned it a bit too late and then just tried to counter it by getting on the throttle of the car, the weight balance not right there, and just losing that rear. That was so unfortunate for him. Has to take that there, which not what anybody wants to see. As I'm also now looking, things we never want to see are penalties, and there's been some 5s handed out for everybody. The triple one with a 5-second penalty.
2 5 seconds.
Yeah, 2 5 seconds, because that is once again the corridors. The start was under investigation once again. 2 of them gets hit there, and I believe you said there was 2 there for the 111. That was due to that contact between the 6 and the 140.
Yeah, so they've got that one immediately, and then car 169 has been assessed a 5-second time penalty to go along with that too. So that is Nicholas Volpato for Absolute Acelith GT3 there, who will understand, right, we got 5 seconds there for the corridor not being maintained. You've got to allow the space then on that start. Pascal Hurl then will be just behind the likes of Venozzi and Mirko Bruckner then for Firefly iRacing bronze. So those drivers then will be turning around going, well, I don't want my penalty, but tough, you're going to have to take your medicine. Speaking of which, it's getting busy here with Dominic Jamal Nabel and Charlie Dorse. Dorse on the outside. He's going to be the one on the wrong side again for the next section as they work through. This one has all come about through Dorse struggling through the De La Rogier, still stuck on the outside, and it's now going to bring the chance then to go for Colin David, and Ryan Fuqua surely is going to try and push in and try and get there. Yeah, I'd have that look of nervousness if I'm Dominic Jamal Nabel. You see all that behind you right now. This could be a case of, well, what can you get in terms of Arsenal? They're trying to throw everything right now, like the England-France game.
Well, they're trying to throw everything at that, but they've got Stonewall defending like it's Jordan Pickford. He's not happy with what's happened there. This is the most animated that we have seen Dominic all race, all day. When you think about it, he realizes that he had to make that move by. And by the way, great defense on Colin David there. That's a tough one to make the moves on. And now he's just starting to really attack in. Well, I think that animation there's just cost him a little bit. Goes a bit wide at the Parabolica, brings David right back into this. And I do wonder if that Ford has got the legs to make an overtake down here on the Lamborghini. You just feel that the Ford's going to have to be better on the brakes. And I don't think he's going to be able to do it.
Well, Dorse is going to look around. This isn't for position, but Fuqua goes through, the pro through on the Pro-Am. He now puts John Amaya in position here in fifth, where he's directly behind his rival out there. We've also got a car down in the pits taking service, or is out, which is Marco Petracchi for Absolute Acelith, the 03 team out there, the 19. They've gone into the wall dramatically through at the Biasino curve, just off the exit. A massive hit, and I will argue they have not towed responsibly away from the scene of the accident, and they weren't given permission to do so, and that will be a huge penalty for them at the end of the race.
And that looked like such a weird incident. It almost looked like he just took his hand off the steering wheel and lost control of the car. But we'll have to wonder what they will have to do as well. As Ryan Fruitquin now really love to get some places up here as Colin David again on the back of this Lamborghini. Now, they're not battling for position last time I checked. They're just battling for track position. David's still not in the place he would like to be after everything. Taking too much of the curb. And that's the second time we've seen a Ford take too much of the curb. Oh, how did they avoid him?
Incredible. Absolutely incredible there. Colin David getting the wild ride then through the exit of Ascari, just about avoids Charlie Dorse, who had to go right down to the inside to avoid contact. But Colin David critically able to keep that one going with not much contact at all of the pace scrubbed off by the time of the incident, and that now puts him way down the pack with work to do. And I would say now would be a good time in my book, if you just had an incident like that, come in, get your pit stop sorted, work your strategy out.
I don't think Colin David needs to do it. I think if we look at the replay, I'll tell you why he doesn't need to do this, Jake. Because watch this. Well, you want to change tyres, right? Well, he's not using two tyres here. So I think his tyres are fine. I think he just needs to relax a little bit right now. But no, in all due seriousness, if you've had that moment there, a nice little reset, a recharge, maybe it's a little bit of repairs, I think that would be great for David right now. The best thing he needs to do is just calm down. Because after that whole moment earlier in the race where they were going side by side through the chicane, that momentum of that car has been nowhere. He just needs to give himself a breather and clean air.
Acelith sandwich right now as the Lion GP bread is then in and around. Manuel Schaefer just behind. Charlie Dorse just in front. And so these drivers will now be looking to give themselves a lot of a chance to drive with aggression, drive with prowess up the hill over to Ascari. And one of the most underrated skills of a racetrack design, Craig, I think, is the plateaued braking zone.
Oh, I cannot do Ascari. Full stop. This is one of the toughest places to go because you have to keep that momentum, but you also know it's not a straight left-hander. You've got to keep that rhythm up. You've got to keep that speed up. It's an art in itself. I look as well. Laguna Seca, those right-handers before you go up the hill, similar type of profile where you've got to brake hard, but you've also got to keep the momentum up, and such a challenge for the drivers out there that they have to just hold that, especially if you go a bit too wide, you've got those sausage curves to worry about. Pascal Hull don't have to worry about those right now. He's got a Lamborghini in front of him for Pato. And can he make this move? It'd be pretty vital if he could, but he's just going to defend around the outside.
So, Pascal Hurl is now looking around at this, thinking, okay, long way past Volpato, it's going to have to be. Gets himself side by side to the door. Volpato will be better on the exit here, though. Lambo versus Lambo, so it's all down to setup and line that is taken, but Absolute Acelith will be happy about the fact that they've got themselves ahead for the moment. But Sudsport tucking in through the Biasino, named after the small village of Biasino, on the outskirts of the corner. Now down to the Della Roggia. They're side by side in front with a bit of contact. Move made by Pascal Hurl, but critically Dorse loses the place to John Amaya, and now they're side by side with the teammates. Manuel Schaefer runs a little bit deep in the Mercedes. This now brings the chance for Vanozzi to go for Absolute Acelith to the inside at the second of the Lesmo corners and says, yeah, I'll have that one. And Vanozzi, Futsa moving forward.
Futsa moving forward, talking to someone moving back though. Neville going backwards, going a bit too wide at Lesmo 2, and everyone's just bunched up and they've all just come together here. And I wonder if that was just a mistake there. Neville didn't have to slow down or anything there. They're all now just bunching up. A little bit of concertina at the worst possible place at the Ascari has just caused everybody to change up, and thankfully, no real damage here, but Neville's going slow all of a sudden. I wonder if there's damage to that car.
I wonder as well, on the underside potentially, then of that car. He's now trying to get that one back to the line. It's either that or he's underfueled it too much, because he is going straight down into pit lane to get it sorted. There doesn't look like there's anything on the front, but the rear does not look healthy. The bumper is looking like it's about to come off, and that's because Ryan Fuqua has run straight up the back of him at Lesmo 2 on the account of Dominic Jamal Nabel's mistake. So that has created the change and the necessity to come in and take the stop. Dorse now having to look back at his own teammate here right now after the pass made over Manuel Schaefer and go, right, we got to start figuring this one out and running away, because the Acelith drivers now are walking away from us. And now we've got Sudsport and more Acelith cars that want to get involved.
Dorse has a little bit of damage to the front of that car, and I wonder if that was just caused by what happened there. Schaefer's all right at the moment as they come on by, as you may get a replay of what happened here. Here's Nabel as he comes around through here. Now, this is going to be his slow moment. Oh, he just loses the car and a little bit of a tap there. So unfortunate there as well. We can go back though. Schaefer's had a big moment out of the Lesmo 2, and he's actually got massive damage as he lost that on his own. It's a similar situation to what happened to Nabel. Loses on the inside there, Jake, and then get tapped from the rear.
He got run over by Hurl, and Hurl just blocks out the next line forward for the Firefly racing car of Freiburg House that was trying to get through as well. So now that puts Freiburg House into a position where Damiano Bellino, who's trying to recover through, is going to get a place. Now Mirko Bruckner is trying to go and get through. Race controller alert to the situation then that they've got, and so for the moment it looks like they're back up to speed, and there's not really much that can be done. Into the pits then is going to come Volpato and Damiano Bellino. Race control have noted that incident, but critically for Manuel Schaefer, he was given responsibility to be allowed to tow because he was in a safe zone close enough to a gap in the fence basically to roll the car behind.
The Acelith goes, a couple of the Acelith guys goes into the pit. Here's that whole moment again, and here's Schaefer, and he just got a little bit wide here, compromise, loses out, and then he'll come around through the second one, tries it, a little bit of a tap there, and then everything just goes down.
That was the first time.
This was actually the first time, yeah. Then with the flash of the lights, not happy. Their whole goes for the move, or it goes on for the move. They're great there, but that Lesmo 2, I'm surprised, Jake. That's like the third incident we've seen at Lesmo 2 today.
And its drivers being impatient, and I think that's the key. Impatience, I think, is being the key. So we take another look. Schaefer defends the line, and so he's over the curb heavy, has to try and catch it. There's nowhere on the outside to go for Dominic Hurl. It is currently under investigation, but Schaefer realizes I'm damaged and I can't get that back safely. So that creates the chain reaction. Bruckner then is sat in front of Freiburg House, and Landgraf is there as well. That is 3 Firefly racing cars battling each other for position. bronze, blue, and red. Now try and work out the colour palette from that.
All I know is bronze is meant to be third, and they're currently leading this little trio right there. And they've also got Pascal Hull that they can work with. But if these are 3 cars all together, why not come in and take your pit stop all together as well? Then work with one another to try and use that to an advantage. Think of it as like Peloton racing here, Jake. You know all about Peloton racing. That would be great right now. These 3 teammates could just get into the pit. That would turn it into a super speedway type thing in NASCAR. But if you're working together as a trio, that would help you for the pace here. And furthermore, you've got a car on its own in front in Pascal Hull. You might be able to jump him and almost get up to the rest of the field.
That would be the key. So these drivers and teams, they're all going to have to be alert to each other and say, right, this is the help that we're going to need. Freiberghaus, the Swiss driver, Landgraf, the German, and they're looking around. Mirko Bruckner, also a German driver, dealing with the Austrian of Hurl there, who is just in front. Velin Vitanov, leading your category in GT3 Pro-Am, has refused to come off the back of the number 69 car of Marcello Caserta there in second place for Absolute Acelid. It is pretty much a Rolls reprisal then from what we saw in the sprint. Same gaps, same everything, same positions right now. It's the same story right now that's being told.
Yep, just with the names switched around, and I wonder if Velin will just be happy enough to do it, because look at the gap he's got though. Guillaume, he's 11 seconds ahead. Now teammates start battling on here, and well, they've allowed Bruckner to get ahead of them. Landgraf's going to get past Freiberghaus, and well, they're not working together right now. It feels like they're all racing against one another, but I don't think the team orders will like that right now. 45 minutes ago, having a little scrap against one another. Let's just wait for the final 5 minutes before you guys decide that you want to start burning the house down.
Well, it's all calm at the moment. They've managed to get those positions changed. GT3 Pro-Am is 11 seconds, the margin at the front for Velin Vitanov here over Andreas Germer, then, who is currently piloting in the Firefly iRacing Silver Car in 6th position in this race overall. So that shows you how strong the Pro-Ams are, that they are reaching a very strong level out there. Caserta, who is in 2nd position, won't be worrying about that car behind, but will be worrying about that Ferrari prancing away in full Tifosi territory in the race lead. So I think you can turn around and say, right, this is going to favour one part of the balance maybe at this stage, but I would say the Ferrari is one of the great all-round cars out there compared to the Lamborghini.
And you think it was only a few years ago that the Lamborghini really just felt like it was a great little powerhouse, an upgraded Audi, as some people would say, the little brother of the Audi, but still a fantastic car that the Italians made. And then all of a sudden, Ferrari, this Ferrari, not Jan, but you could say that he would like to drive a Ferrari, they came out and decided, hey, Orica, let's make a GT that's like a prototype. And that's the whole story of this Ferrari. And well, you've got to say that there's a reason why Ferrari's been so dominant. The Tifosi's so excited to see this. Technically, 2 Italian cars leading at the front of this field, but there's only one car that matters, and it's this one at the moment. As Team Heusigenfeld would love to see Jan Stentolski take another victory. 2 seconds lead. Well, knock on wood, he's looking pretty comfortable.
He's quite happy about the gap he's got. Velin Vitanov now with a question, stick or twist, and at the moment he's going to decide, I'm going to plonk myself right behind that Lamborghini in my Mustang and go, I'm not going to do anything but push you along because I know how quick you are. Into the Retafilo they go, and looking to get the drive off of the exit then to say, right, to the Della Roggia and the Biasino curve, we are going to have to go and now try and figure out, can we keep this gap down? And the answer to that, as far as last lap times go, is no. 0.7 of a second difference. The first time we've seen a big move. Speaking of big moves, Venozzi and Fuqua. This one for positioning category here for Hyperion and Absolute Acelith, and that is Alessandro Venozzi in the Absolute Acelith number 70, getting the pass done. Fuqua having another look to the inside, but he is lifting very, very early into the corner, which indicates fuel strategy.
It also indicates a slowdown. I think he cut that line going into the first chicane there, so that might be the reason. Here is Fuqua, and I wonder if we'll just see it right here. Does he attack too hard into that first curb? No, it's the second curb, the inside curb, and well, he will need to get a refund on those tires. He's not used to them, and Not sure why he's flashing the headlights there, because with no
hit every button you can, hoping to get it turned.
Yeah, I suppose that's the... Well, you would know what that's all about, hitting all the buttons. For me, I'd just be mashing the brake button right there to try and hold on to it. But a little bit unfortunate there for Fuqua. Not the place you want to get the slowdown, though. Usually you get the slowdown cutting the inside of the first part of the chicane, not the inside the second with all the curbs.
Well, it could be the sort of thing where he's gone over the top and the lights flashing in that way. I don't think would have been just a natural head flash. That could have been I've accidentally knocked the pit limiter trying to go through. Quickly knock it off and go back again. There's John Amaya, who is currently third in category right now for the Absolute Ace-Lift GT3 170 out there. And they are tucked in now behind Ryan Fuqua's Hyperion car. They've got a long way to get to Andreas Germer right now, 5.4 seconds. So they are going to be reliant on a little bit of help. And I do want to try and go back at some point and see the incident that has caused one of our 2 retirements, the 19 of Absolute Ace-Lift, because it was a very weird incident going into turn 3 and 1 where they did not have the grace of race control to exit the car from the race and the server. So they are going to be in a little bit of trouble for that as far as it goes. And I'm taking a look at the incident then that has come through for the 166 and the 6. And currently car 166, that is Sudsport Racing Chrome. They have been adjudged a warning for that incident, Craig.
Yeah, I can understand the steward's decisions on that one, because there was not a lot of time there to make a reactionary move. So I do understand why they're saying just a warning. It's also just saying, look, just be more careful. Just be aware that some drivers may be a bit slower than you, may have a moment in front. You've got to be a little bit better on the reaction. Let's have a look at a quick replay here. And this is the one you were after, Jake. This is what happened to Petracchi right here. And all of a sudden, just going around Bassano. And then, oh, whoa. That looks like the wheel's just been jerked out of his hand, and then the DD wheel just holds control. That could almost be hardware failure, if you ask me.
Very much can. Was next to a outpost then, a marshal's post, is now leaders in. So we've hit the pit stop window with just under 40 minutes to go in this race. They've gone 25 minutes in terms of this, and right down to the end box goes Jan Senkowski, and everyone looks to hit their marks here for the first time, and they will take their fuel, they will take their tyres if they want to. I doubt that we'll see tyre changes here today. I think it's just going to be fuel stops before they get themselves out and away again. So it's about margin. How much margin? And this is everybody in. This is what we call a pit party.
It's a pit party apart from the 2 Absolute Ace-Lift cars that took an early pit stop, and I wonder how that's going to play into their factor. They'll be coming across the line to try and overtake anybody trying to get a jump here.
Caserta's jump.
We do have a jump here. Great jump there from Caserta. Takes the lead. 3 seconds left in the box. Left there. Could be interesting. SimRacing Cyan as well from Volstig as well. Another 4 seconds quicker in the box. Keep eyes on those drivers for the final pit stop.
And here come the Ace-Lift cars of Volpato and Damiano Bellino, who are going to emerge here just behind Andreas Germer and Alessandro Vanozzi. So their strategies now have basically pulled their Lamborghinis here, Craig, right onto the battle for second place in class.
I think that's a smart decision. The undercut has worked. Remember I was talking earlier that maybe the Firefly drivers would like to work together and just go for that undercut. Well, Ace-Lift just proved why it works, and great work there from Pato and Bellino. They have managed to jump up here, and this battle is going to be very interesting because these two, 36 and 35 seconds cone to cone, that they were 5 seconds faster in the box, which means they had took less fuel last time. Next stop, probably have to take more fuel.
So they will have to pay back that Pied Piper, but the question will be, does Jan Senkowski go for that move or not and put risk on the battle? Volpato here in third on the back of Andreas Germer, now thinking about, okay, where am I going to find this opportunity? Because it's Lambo second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth in the Pro-Am class. There is your driver in second right now for Team Heusingveld, Jan Senkowski. First time all day that he has been outside of P1.
Yeah, normally you don't really see that. Jan has just been so dominant, full stop. But to see him not P1 is very interesting. Let's see if he does a lift. No, it's just a normal braking there. So he's not even looking to do any fuel saving right now. He's just going to be aggressive. And I think that's going to be the same there for Caserta in front. Don't need to do a lot of fuel saving at the moment. Just wants to hit those marks. And sometimes I think just absolute flat out on the throttle, Jake, is better than taking your foot off that right pedal and doing some fuel saving.
Yeah, quarter of a second then, heading towards the Della Roggia and just lifting out, but trying to just angle it in a little bit better then through the left and the right, and has managed that really nicely then with that through into Lesmo number 1 now, and trying to just set up the car for the big run up to Ascari. It's the next great place that you've got to make a move, and it's this corner where you need it. You use all of the rumble strip, that AstroTurf on the outside, and again that gap at 0.2 of a second and closing. Zenkovsky with a very calm look at things at the moment. Yeah, this is just a normal day at the office for me, but again, not close enough here to Ascari, so you got to set it up again and you got to work for the overtake here.
Yeah, took a bit of a breather there, made sure he was ready to go in for that corner and get himself fully focused, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's just happy enough to stay on the back of this absolute Acerlift car. No reason to be too aggressive right now. If you know that you may make that time back up in the pits, why be aggressive now? There's still 35 minutes left to go. We've not even hit that 25-minute sprint race time that the driver will probably be useful. They've been out there for 30 minutes. A lot happening, especially you're seeing that picture-in-picture. Nicholas Papato, great battle this is going to be. Get past the Firefly Racing Andreas Germer. Great overtake there to get P2 in the Pro-Ams, and that is just what Acerlift would like to see. They got 2 cars battling at the front of the Pro-Ams.
Yeah, they do, but it's not a done deal. Andreas Germer is going to be quick in a straight line here. Could pull over to the right side, is lifting out though. So Nicholas Volpato has the move secure because they're behind Alessandro Vanozzi, who is 5th in the Pro class, and so they're trying to work 3 absolute Acerlift machines in a line of 4, but Freiburg House back here with a bit of side-by-side here. Mirko Bruckner for the iRacing Bronze team defends the places. There he is behind Colin David, trying to find his way to go and get on by. He might be the place selector, and he might be selecting past both of these drivers.
Oh, he'd like to just conduct this pace as well, but at the back of the field, you kind of can't really have the conducting that you would like to do. What about Demanio Bellino? What can he do right now on the back of this? And look at this. Acerlift 2, 3, and 4 in 5th, in this battle for Pro-Am. Brilliant. And you've got to feel for Germer, the Firefly sandwich right now. Acerlift are the bread. There's a little bit of a double stack on the top side of the bread. I wonder if that's just going to mean you've got a piece of ham on top of the bread. But regardless, Germer not where he'd like to be. A Lamborghini party through Monza. Not exactly the Italian car that people would like to see, but they're pretty much happy with this. And now Germer losing time as he comes out the exit. That's an important exit to get right at Ascari. We've seen enough drivers today hit that curb on the inside.
Yeah, we have done, and we've seen a lot of drivers fly because of it. There is Damiano Bellino in that 4th place in category, trying to figure it out. Zenkovsky remaining steadfast. I think Jan is realising here, I don't have to make this move to win this race. I can sit on the back, know that Marcello has got to have a longer stop than me at the final stop, and just manage the race. It's not what we call flashy, but that's sometimes the safest way to make the pass. Damiano Bellino to the inside. He's going to go get this one for 3rd place in class, and Andreas Germer, nothing he can do for Firefly iRacing Silver. That's just astute.
Damiano with a real good overtake there. I think he actually caught Germer a little bit napping. I think he wasn't prepared to see that. I think they were probably thinking, well, maybe do what Santolski's doing up front. Just don't be aggressive. Just wait for your time. But nope, they get by. Look at this line of cars, though. Acerlift really now taking control of the Pro-Ams. Well, I say taking control of the Pro-Ams. You still got Vitanov leading the Pro-Ams by a 16. That's 16 seconds on the timing tower. You bet your bottom dollar it is. Great there. But now they have full control of this main pack of Pro-Ams, and I wouldn't be surprised if that means that they're just going to use that early pit stop to their advantage.
Andreas Germer is there. Now, I've seen something interesting out there for the number 18. I don't think it's been ruled a penalty, but it might do. We might need more clarification on it. But something called the 5-second rule violation. You see a lot of this now in sim racing, which is a rule that follows like this, Craig. When you go into the pit, you must stay in the transit lane. You cannot go through the grid, through the pit stalls for more than 5 seconds.
Did you know back in the day that was actually a protestable offense on iRacing? You had to not drive through all the pit stalls because the pit stalls on iRacing are contactless. So you're able to just drive on through and use that as an advantage and can be a disadvantage for some drivers. And you've got the fast lanes scanned on racetracks. Some leagues, and most leagues actually, love to utilize those fast lanes in the pit lanes like you do in the real world. We try to simulate real world racing, and that's one of the things you get out there. And I think that has caught out one of the drivers. I think he may get a 5-second penalty, and I think that's what the decision is, but we have to wait and see.
It's Colin David, and he will get that penalty on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and today on Sunday. For that one, they're very, very on top of it when you see it. So a real shame there in terms of that one, as we are now over the halfway stage here in this race. Marcella Caserta and Absolute Acelith ahead at the moment, with Team Huisingveld currently in second position as far as it goes, but 2 tenths behind. So then you got negative delta by SimGear.gg, who are leaders of the Pro-Am category by, get this, 14 seconds over Volpato, and that difference is the difference between 3rd and 7th out there in this race. Watching on board with Marcella Caserta here with Zenkovsky, very happy just to follow about and go, oh, sim racing friends.
Don't really like friends, but he's also just wondering if Caserta give him a tour. He's probably wondering when you come around to the Parabolica, he's going to see Caserta get on the radio and start saying, now if you look to the left, you will see the entry to the tunnel to go under the track so you can get into the paddock. And then he'll now be telling him to the right, you will see Barney. And now, straight ahead, you will see the Variante de Retifilio. And that's what they're looking for right now. Jan is in complete control. I know it doesn't look it when you're in P2, but he's doing everything he needs to do, really, to win this race. Just hit the marks, be patient. That's going to help him. That's a slowdown from Caserta. All that work with the pit stop, Jake, it's just gone away.
Well, I don't quite know how to say that, but that is just the epitome of how good you need to be out there, because you make one mistake and you get pounced on it. Caserta now has all of that to do once again, as Freiberg House now sets himself up then for a look to the move, as currently this one is setting itself up quite nicely here for that 10th place. In front of him, Mirko Bruckner at bronze. Behind him, Colin David with the 5-second time penalty that is added on to him at this moment in time. And so Freiberg House will be turning and saying, right, I want a very, very strong day at the office, but how am I going to get there when I'm only 10th? I'm only up 1 spot in my race as far as it goes, and I'm looking around and I'm last of the 3 Firefly cars in a row right now, 4 in the race.
Yeah, so he's kind of a little bit of gatekeeping there. He's going to be the bouncer to the rest of the Firefly cars, because he would like to make sure that they hold this line, because you've got 3 of them in a row. They're not all together, but that they are in so much of a row, because here's the other one. Sven Landgraf looking to make a move on to Charlie Dulce. And we'll get this side by side. Will the Mustangs go? Runs over the curb. Nowhere for him to go. They do collide. And I think for Landgraf there, just a little bit too much of that curb pushed him a bit wider than he would want to be. And that's why we say Ascari's a tough corner. They both survived that, but that's not exactly the way that any driver would love to make an overtake.
Well, we know that Ascari is single file when you go through it. By the time you get side by side, someone has to yield through that section, Craig. And I will turn around and say it was Charlie Dawes' responsibility to yield that one, and he will in fact come into the pit then for his 2nd stop of the race at that matter of fact. And speaking of matters of fact, out there are no fast repairs available, so he'll be looking around at that hit. Did it do enough damage? It had. Not the front right out of line, as here's Colin David looking for a way to go and get this pass done then in the lovely German sim racing red car, and does manage it, and so now has got through and now needs 5 seconds on Freiberg House.
I think he's got a chance to do that, but he has to also make sure that he gets past Mirko Bruckner, who's in front there as they continue on. And we've also got a little bit of blinking at the front of this field as well, with Papato now trying to get that P2
Oh, Dawson's retired the car, by the way.
What's that, sorry?
Charlie Dawson's retired the number 14 Lion GP FensterVersan.com Academy car. And ultimately, their day is done. It's a horrible day for Lion GP. Both their cars are out.
That is a surprise. Well, remember, I think he also was carrying damage from earlier on from a separate incident, and I wonder if it was just too much damage, a couple hits, and was it really worth to try and just keep that going? Not the day for Lion GP. They're going to be looking to see if they can reset and recover in the next round, and that is an unfortunate moment there. As now up in front of this, Ace-Lift cars side by side, and they just have a small switch there for these battles, and Fuqua continues to battle on, and here goes Pascal Hall. I'm not a huge fan. I don't know about these seats here, Jake. I don't like the idea of thinking like I'm a horse with blinkers on the side.
Well, that might be your understanding, but those sides that they have there are there. We go. And look at that. He's ducking right down in like he's a carter there, Craig, to say, look, I'm going to get a little bit quicker in a straight line. It works sometimes, but he's got to get by John Amaya that way. And guess what? The ducking technique works.
I'm more of a fan of the rocking technique myself, but yeah, duck down, get the aerodynamics. We made the joke about Peloton racing. Well, I guess it does work there. I don't think your helmet's aerodynamic in a GT car, but you still got to use the same helmets that they use in open cockpit racing. So, yeah, I suppose it works. Great move there from Hull. Gets up into that battle there. And Maya right behind him now in 6th in the Pro-Ams. Good little battle here, but Ace-Lift, real. We've got to talk about Ace-Lift here, because this is the lowest racing Ace-Lift car still out there. One car's already retired. They've still got 4 out there, and they're running 6, 7, and 8 in class, and then 12. Great drive for the team today.
Well, I'd say they're running 6th, 7th, 8th overall at this moment, and saying, look, this has been really good. Vanozzi's 5th in his class, and then you've got them 2nd, 3rd, and currently 6th in the Pro-Am. So they're still getting a lot out of it right now, and saying, okay, there's still more to be done. Vanozzi then in that 5th position is going to be suddenly turning around and saying, well, where am I? I'm on the back of the 03 and the 02 quote-unquote cars then of Volpato and Bellino. So this is a great chance for them to say, right, not only are we trying to go quick, but we've also got this on the form as far as it stands for where they are, unless we forget the car that's 2.4 seconds off of the race lead and trying desperately to keep German sim racing Cyan away from them.
Yeah, and I wonder if Vanozzi might actually join into Volpato and Bellino's pit strategy here, because remember, they pitted 5 laps earlier than all the other drivers. A little bit of a slow moment there from Nicholas at the front of this field. And I wonder if these 3 now might just go together. Not the front 2, but I wonder if all 3 will they actually be able to go, because look at these stint lengths, and that's a long time on a tank of fuel, 13 laps. That says to me, because remember, they spent less time in the pit, Jake. I reckon the moment they saw the pit window open is probably the time they decided we're going in. They're trying to go as long as they can here. I wonder if that's going to be a good strategy at the end of the day.
Well, I think they'll be looking at around now as a good time to come in and get their final stop, because they know they'll make it. Oh, big off there in front. It's Chris Toms, who's gone around at Lesmo 1 there, and he has done it all on his own. Drove it back to the inside to try and get that up to speed quickly, and then looped it around with too much traction. So Chris Toms will be thoroughly embarrassed by that one, and realises he's now behind John Amaya, which puts him 12th on the road.
That's a lot of positions lost as well for him. Not what he wants to do. Now watch this. He loses the rear of the car. A bit too hot into the corner. The rear goes. He can't save it once that rear's gone. So now he tries to get back going on. Now this says to me, he's probably running TC0 or TC1. Tries to get on the throttle, loses the rear. But also, crucially, Jake, look how much gravel he has kicked up here. And I know some of it got picked up there from the Ace-Lift guide. That's a lot of gravel, really affecting the grip for the next time by. And once again, I called it. These 2 from Ace-Lift into the pit. But Vanozzi decides, no, I'm going to stay out on my own plan.
Yeah, and we realise why, because Venozzi, looking around at his strategy, he's on the same as everyone else. So he's going to be looking at that going, yeah, I'm about 5 laps away from it. And now leaving pits is Lars Vetzig, who's coming from 3rd place to make his stop. So he's going to be the eyes that everyone else will look at as he makes the call. He'll come out just behind Mirko Bruckner then and says, okay, this is what I've got. Volpato now rolling off of pits, and Damiano Bellino, they are going to be side by side as they exit the lane here between them. These two Lamborghinis, and guess what? Who's going to want to give it up? Damiano Bellino. Oh, I think that's really hard for him to give that up because he was in control.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure if that was just him being a bit too cautious, but I felt like they had a bit more space. This is a very wide pit lane exit here, so you could have afforded to go side by side and then probably wait until the very last moment as it just tightens up. So real shame there for Bellino. I wondered if that was going to be an issue. Look at this though, the GSRC track map is back. You get to see where some of these drivers are, because what Lars has done here is a big deal, and I wonder if this is going to open the floodgates up that he came in early.
This is the difference between where Vetzig is in 7th place and those two drivers out in front of Jan Senkowski and Marcelo Caserta. I would say with the way that the pit stops happened in the first stages though, Craig, I'd say it's more of a worry where Vetzig is for Caserta rather than Senkowski, because Senkowski took more fuel than his nearest rivals at that first stop.
And that slowdown that we saw earlier as well is going to be a big issue for Caserta as well, because he had that slowdown. And yeah, the slowdown's going to be about a 1.5 second slowdown, but that adds on. You've got to get back up to speed. You've got to then hold that main speed. You're almost losing 2 seconds when it's a 1.5 second slowdown there. So big time moments there for Caserta. Chris Toms into the pits as well, as the Ferrari says hello to the iRacing BMW safety car. We get to say hello once again. Toms is going to be in and out, but I think all his damage has been done after that moment he had there, Jake. And to add insult to injury, because of the fact that he had a bit of spinning, well, they penalised him, or looking at an investigation for an unsafe rejoin. And speaking of people also under, the 140, one of the Firefly cars, under investigation for pit lane infringement.
No, it's the 104. So it's the 104, which would be Damiano Bellino, who is under investigation for a pit lane infringement. So there he is currently on the back of Nicholas Volpato, and that could cost him 3rd here overall if in the Pro-Am category if he doesn't get it right. So now he'll be looking at this going, well, I need to get by Volpato, because if I'm under threat, then I might get a penalty here, and there's not much that I can do about it. So it's going to be very tough in terms of what they're eyeing up at this moment through the Della Roccia and over to Lesmo number 1, Damiano Bellino. Then he's going to be having a good look at this one with race control.
Yeah, I wonder if that's because he wasn't in the fast lane. He was in the middle lane, and I wonder if that's what they're looking at. We'll probably get the decision from race control shortly. And
but where would he go then if that's the case,
that's the thing. I agree. I do agree. I was going to bring on to that. Where does he go? He's got a car beside him. Do you expect him to yield in the pit lane? I do agree with you there. I don't feel he's done anything wrong there.
Yeah,
personally.
That's what they've got him for, not yielding to cars in the fast lane. It's a 5-second time penalty.
Well, we're commentators. I'm not race steward. If I was a race steward, I would get chewed out for my decisions. But personally, like I said, like we both said, Jake, where can he go? Nowhere for him to go, and he's got to yield there. And in all due fairness, I felt being that he yielded after the pit lane exit, which we both said about, I feel like that was probably the best compromise he could have done.
So he's done the job, but ultimately they're going to argue at race control. He's done the job too late. So Damiano Bellino here is going to take an extra 5 seconds for his troubles, and he's really going to have to work hard now to go and get there. A warning in then for Chris Toms for his unsafe rejoin in the 48, and Damiano Bellino, I don't think, is waiting about here. Comfortable move by Nicholas Volpato here. Realises I don't have to fight him. He can go through. It's his job now to make the 5 seconds as they both sit on the back of Chris Toms after his stop.
I wonder if that's also a little bit of a teamwork there, being told, hey, you've got the penalty, see what you can do. I wonder if that's them saying, let's see what you can do out there. See if you're able to make that time up. If you do, well done. If not, well, maybe. That's unfortunate. They're trying to make sure they've got a podium here, just like Lars Weitzik is trying to get a good shot with this undercut. And Well, technically, Jake, we've seen the undercut work already. And speaking of people trying to respond to the undercut, Caserta has come into the pit. And this is what you've got to be looking for right now. Is Caserta going to hold on to this P2 in the pros?
I think it's going to be all about whether it works or not, because in has come Marcelo Caserta now for his final stop. Wetzig is stuck behind Mirko Bruckner, and it's going to be a question of whether he can get this pass done or not. He's going to look to the inside here at Parabolica, but again, Mirko Bruckner is better on the brakes, and now look at this, driving away is Marcelo Caserta. He's got a massive gap now as he looks to get up to speed here along this run, but now watch this on the right hand side. Colin David goes by. Freiburg House I think is going to be in front, so Wetzig is a long way off here from Marcelo Caserta.
And I wonder if he just got held up a bit too much, because he was in the 48. He needs to be in the 47, so I wonder if he was just unable to get past some of this traffic yet to pit. And Bruckner, we know that he was stuck behind there for a little bit. I wonder if just the traffic has cost him, because that is a, 3-second gap? That's a big-time gap there when you think that both of them spent the exact same time in the pit lane. So what has happened there to Lars? It has to be a little bit of bad traffic management there, and that is so unfortunate in that battle that he was hoping to try and get the advantage on.
Well, I'm looking at his laps here right now. Lars Wetzig, as he came out of the pits, he did a 48.1 and a 47.8. If you want to compare that right now over to what Absolute Acelith were doing, they were in the low 47s by comparison. So if you're not quick enough, you're not quick enough. And Lars Wetzig, unfortunately, is going to be staring down the fact he wasn't quick enough there, and Caserta has control. Senkowski now will cover off the move and come in for his stop. He will go down to the final section, and I note Damiano Bellino down in the pits and has been for a long time. I think he's parked the car.
Oh, that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate if he's had to park. Yeah, I think he has parked the car there. Here comes Jan. He's going to get this on Caserta so comfortably as well. Another driver in the pits as well. I think it's one of the another absolute cars. They'll come into the pits as well. As
I've just seen what happened there for Bellino. He's gone off at Ascari on the inside.
Oh, okay then. That's an unfortunate moment there. I wonder if we're going to get a replay of what happened there for him. That's a very unfortunate moment. In fact, I'm now looking at right now, and watch this. Hits the curb, and I think that curb just upset the car and upset the balance.
And then backs it, and suddenly he realizes that that spoiler that's there on the back of his Lamborghini was obviously held together by a little bit of micropore tape or something, because that just blinked off in this very, very quickly. Meanwhile, though, Pascal Hurl looking for a way to get by Andreas Germer for position, and Germer is holding ground quite nicely in the 138, but by no means are we saying this one is a done deal as far as it goes. They're climbing the crest with Fuqua leader of the race at this moment, with the exception, of course, of Velin Vitanov, who leads. Here's the side-by-side, straight to the inside. Pascal Hurl has not been shy about hurling his car over to the front.
No, he's done a real good job there to get it by. He's been the aggressor, and it's been calm and safe aggression. Done a real good job, and I wonder if he's now got to think about going into the pits, because there is Vitanov into the pits from the lead of Pro-Am. Now then. Now, was that the fast lane, Jake? Because the fast lane's the white line, am I not wrong? Hole into the pits right away. Keep your eyes on that, because last time I heard, the furthest to the left by the wall is the fast lane, not that middle part.
Oh, what a stop. Velin Vitanov, I don't think he knew where his box was exactly, and he will come out then just behind Jan Senkowski. Andreas Germer has stayed out for another lap, so too Ryan Fuqua. So Vitanov comfortably in the lead, and net second as it goes. In the pits right now, Colin David is there, and so too Pascal Hurl. Damiano Bellino's got a new rear wing on, and he's off and away again. Hurl's gone, and Meyer's there. Bruckner, Freiburg House, Landgraf, they're all there. They're all looking at making their stops. But Velin Vitanov, on merit, is looking like seconds, very attainable.
Well, I think he's got a real good shot at making this in second. And like you said earlier, then we got to ask the question, what's the Pro-Am if it's not an Am or not a Pro even? So that's going to be interesting. What can be interesting as well is this battle between the Absolute Acelith cars. because they're already now just changing positions once again. And if this is the sign of, is there any team orders? Well, I think the answer would be to that. What's a team order? These drivers are just going out for themselves today.
Absolutely. Volpato knows it and is going to now be driving about saying, I've got to get by John Amaya. And that would be for 4th position currently. But we've still got the likes of, I would argue, Hurl and Germa then who are there and have done well. But Ryan Fuqua then is your driver in the number 5 with 12:19 on the clock. He's got till 5 minutes to make his second stop of the race. I don't think he'll go that far, but we are beyond the 15-minute window where a safety car can be called. Any instant from now, you're racing flat out to the end of this race. In comes Ryan Fuqua for Hyperion Racing.
And also in comes Germa. So that's it. All the drivers have now taken their pit stops. Pentalski's going to retake this lead. Beats it off as well. Now have that P2. 4 seconds is that gap between those two. I think the key number is actually 2.4 because what can Caserta do to try and catch back up? Not sure he's going to be able to. And also give a shout out as well in P3. Lars Whitestick as well, trying to push on, but that's a big gap they have to do. I feel like we've got the positions all sorted out now unless we see these two get a good move, and Germa almost caught to the back of Fuqua, and that's going to be interesting to come out.
Looking for Nazi.
Pascal Hull's right there, and he's going to battle.
The Nazi's going to get by, and critically will also Pascal Hurl. And the answer to that is no. He gets stuck on the outside, pushes hard through the second part, but Hurl loses out then on that one for second against Andreas Germa. So Germa has held. Hurl now is going to have to find a way. This will be effectively now your race on for 7th place. Fuqua back to 5th. Venozzi has got the jump that is necessary at that point. And we are looking at these final stages as can these few positions make changes out there? A lot of dust being kicked up from the gravel there from Fuqua going by as we work ourselves into Lesmo 1 and over to Lesmo 2.
What you've got to realize is in this pack right now are drivers battling for P2 and P3 in the Pro-Ams, and I think that's going to be the big game right now. Pascal Hull as well would really love to get past Germa, but to get to Germa, it's going to make sure that he gets a little bit of a disadvantage because Germa getting slipstream on Ryan Fuqua right now, and that's going to be helping Andreas here, and I think that might just be the issue with Pascal. Lovely overhead there to go and see some moves. Colin David still battling out there, trying to go around the outside of Sven Landgraf, and that's just absolute beautiful. Boys, you can't go 2x2 through Ascari. They just great move from Colin.
Needed that one, especially because he's got 5 seconds of time penalty and he's under investigation again down in pit lane is Colin David. So he's turning around and realizing he might be done for another 5 seconds, then for a 5-second rule violation. And so too under investigation right now is the 169 of John Amaya, who's currently in 4th place in Pro-Am.
Well, that's a tough one as well. And all these drivers getting hit due to penalties in the pit lane as well. The 18 as well getting hit by penalties. We were talking about the 169. I think the 166 and 167 is what we're seeing as well. So some drivers at the back are getting hit. Sven Landgraf.
That's the Sud
well,
Sport cars.
Having a moment as well. Yeah, both Sud. Is it both Sud? Both
it is.
Sport. Very interesting there.
Hurl to the inside. Look at this. What a pass by Pascal Hurl. Getting that absolutely chucked down the inside there and saying, right, you may have covered off the move, but you didn't cover it long enough there. Andreas Germa sees that one lose out.
That was actually, I wouldn't say he caught him napping because Germa was actually defending, when the blocking, he was defending that line as much as he could. And now Pascal's just going to keep calm. And I always love seeing a driver's facial expressions after an overtake. And he's absolutely calm right now. There would be a little bit of celebration with 8 to go. But yes, I've got the move on here for P2. But no, he's just straight on back, full focus. He's going to use Fuqua to his advantage with that dirty air in the slipstream. Brilliant move. And he can't relax yet, though. That's the important thing.
No, absolutely not. They're 23 seconds off the lead, and this one can come straight back in terms of battle here for second place. So Pascal Hurl has now got to work here with Ryan Fuqua just in front. I can also confirm as well that they're looking at the 140 and the 139 cars as well. So that is Firefly iRacing Red and iRacing Bronze being looked at for pit lane infringements as well. So that's 6 cars in there who are being looked at, investigated for a pit lane infringement, and you don't often get to see that they are that eagle-eyed that it's a case of Oprah Winfrey's decided to come to this race. You get a look at a penalty, you get a look at a penalty, you all get a look at a penalty as we watch John Amaya here into the Della Roggia, and is this just going, oh, absolutely explodes over the curb.
No, that's an absolute ace-lift car there, not an absolute explode, but I've never seen a car fly that much through the Del Rogier chicane there. What a weird way to go, but that just goes to show how aggressive the drivers are taking it. And if you're hitting those curves, those anti-cut curves that in the real world were cut out after Porsche had a crashing wreck, you can see that you just have to be careful not to be too aggressive and try and carry too much speed. The understeer turning in will be a problem. Understeer right now, that's what Hull's dealing with. He's having to make sure that he keeps that slipstream and gets advantage. But remember, last I checked, he's also under investigation for the pit lane, Jake.
Dominic Jamana Bell has had a big crash on the exit then of Ascari, and they're never going to throw a safety car this late, but has procedure been followed because he caught the curve, head first into the barriers there on the exit and to a very dramatic stop. That's his race done and dusted then, and not much that he can do about that. Gap at the front, 4.7 to negative delta by SimGear.gg, 7 seconds to Absolute Motorsport, Absolute Ace-Lift number 69 car. Pascal Hurl, though, still trying to break away, using Fuqua as his way to get forward here. And this would be for overall, with 6 minutes to go, for 6th place. And again, leaning down, come on, and a little bit of rock. He's taking your advice here, Craig, trying to get this pass done. And he's going to lunge it down under braking here. Fuqua, who's more of a prototype specialist, trying to get it to work around the outside, doesn't get there.
Crazy when you think more of a prototype specialist, and they've taken the most blocky GT3 there is right now. Pascal Hull with the car that's very aerodynamic in the Lamborghini, really pushing hard. Come on, bit more rocking stunt. You had that the first time it worked. Now he's set himself up. You can't say it's the over-under, but he's got that advantage right behind as well. As Fuqua gets hit away, and Germa just a little bit too hot on the brakes. Those two will have to serve slowdowns.
Well, there's hot, and then there's whatever Andreas Germa was there. He was steaming in at a rate of knots. No way he was going to get that slowed up. He hasn't lost the position, but race control, I am sure this late, are going to have a very, very stern talking to over to Andreas Germa, and that could be the difference between podium or not.
Yeah, we've still got those pit lane infringements being looked at as well. I think the drivers have to be careful. Here's Germa. Now, this far back, yeah, he's missed his braking point completely. And in all due fairness, he tried to avoid everybody. But, Jake, sometimes the best way to avoid people is to not turn into the corner. And I think they would have said that if you were out of speed there, why didn't you go right and why did you go left?
Car 18, 5 seconds worth of time penalty. Car 166. 5 seconds worth of time penalty. The 5-second rule violation being found out then. 3 more to come for 169, for 140 and 139. But penalties are coming down and they are raining late here at Monza.
That's going to hit Pascal Hull very hard right now. But the 181, well, it's going to be clean. How you doing, Vitanov? You're having a very quiet race up there in P2 overall, leading the Pro-Ams by quite a lot of time. But that's a big-time implication after Pascal getting that 5-second penalty there. We're going to see a change on the podium for the Pro-Ams, and he may not even get to the third place in the podium.
He may not. Marcelo Caserta here, I don't think is going to chase this down. That gap is over 2.5 seconds here with under 4 minutes to go in this race, and I am turning around at Velen Vitanov, and he is very, very quick at what he is capable of doing. He is not the fastest driver, it has to be said, at negative delta. I turn around, there are two drivers, I think, at that team who are quicker than Velen Vitanov, and those 2 drivers, I believe, are Johan Neshev and also, God, I've forgotten his name now at this point, but Neshev is definitely one of them. But the other one, I believe, has driven some brilliant races here on GSRC before over in the MX-5 World Tour that used to run here. So there's some lovely stuff that's gone through, and the name will come back to me eventually.
Well, while that name comes back to you, let's just go over these penalties that we're seeing. We said the 169 gets 5 seconds, the 18 gets 5 seconds, the 166 and 167, 5 seconds, the 140, 5 seconds, the 139, 5 seconds. You work that out over the long range here, and we don't know what's going on. There looks to be also an investigation of what we saw there with Germa and Fuqua. Wouldn't be surprised if that's going to be a warning after what happened, as both drivers kept on going. But that has shaped up things a little bit at the front of the field in the Pro-Ams. Well, for the rest of the pros, though, Jan is just having fun, and he's basically enjoying himself right now. But even though he's got this 4.5 second lead, keeping it cool, he's keeping it, and they're calm, and he's doing the exact same thing he has to do. Let's just keep on driving. He's not even slowing down right now. He's having a blast out there. This is what you call, Jake, a Sunday drive.
I've remembered the name. It's Vladislav Shopov. That's who comes to mind, Vladdy Shopov, then, who would be the other driver who is absolutely lightning fast with the team. But Senkovsky, you're absolutely right, Craig, is walking here at the front of this field. And this is what I think experience buys you over the course of the way that he runs. This has been a no-mistakes day. The pace has been up there, but critically, the style and the form have been there. And have you seen him even miss a half an apex?
I think the only time he was in quote-unquote trouble was when he didn't have the lead, because you saw Caserta try and do the undercut there with the, well, not the undercut, but try to take less fuel on that first pit stop, and it did not work for him. In fact, you look at it, yeah, and actually took less time in the pits than anybody else out there on track on the second go. So he really worked well. Even when he was behind, he didn't have to worry too much. He used that to the opportunity, get some fuel saving, work it out, and look at him. It's just so nice to see a driver so connected with the car, so smooth with the inputs as well. Jan Sentolsky has been around for a while, Jake, and he's going to be around for a lot more than a while. And he's just going to be walking home with another victory today.
It is the final lap of this race with 30 seconds remaining on the clock. The gaps have all opened up then across the field here as they have all looked to set themselves up. The likes of John Amaya, though, looking for one late on Nicholas Volpato. It's not for position here in terms of this race, so they're keeping an eye out on where the penalties, of course, all lie, because we know that a number of cars have been dinged on a penalty. The 170, for example, here of John Amaya has been keeping a very close eye on all of this and trying to hold ground, especially, and is now going to get to the inside here of to the outside of Nick Volpato. Not going to get past Nicholas, though, like that, and so they are going to have to stay as they are for the moment. But there is no doubt here with that car, the Mustang in the background, the Ferrari that is out there in front. These two are A and A1 of their respective championships, because they have both scored points maxima for what they have needed. Jan Senkovsky, Jan, the man, getting it done at the double here at the Temple of Speed. Velin Vitanov behind gets his Pro-Am double up in play, and we are in for a treat's worth of racing this year with the GT Open.
Big drama at the end, though, because coming down to Ascari for the final time, Amaya has had an incident. He's lost the rear of the car, and he's crashed out and lost some time. More drivers coming on by. We've also had a decision there. 138, 5-second penalty. Oh, what that could have been for Amaya if he'd not just had that crash at Ascari. He could have come home here to take some time. Here comes more of the drivers. There is Volpato coming by. Colin David's going to come on by. And then it's going to be Sven Landgraf. We'll have to sort all these penalties out. But at the stroke of midnight, 138 with a penalty for that moment going in to Delia Rogier chicane.
It might be safer to ask who doesn't have a penalty rather than who does after this one, because there's been a few dinks of 5 seconds for procedural issues that have caught out many of these drivers. But one thing we do know, the unofficial results after an hour, 5 minutes and 36 seconds, It is Team Hoitingveld on top with Jan Senkowski and was never under threat for that one in GT Pro. A win of 10.3 over Marcelo Caserta with Lars Vetzig third and Alessandro Vanozzi then in fourth. Ryan Fuqua would end up fifth with Chris Toms in sixth position after his unsafe rejoin warned him. Colin David pinged about with penalties, ends up seventh in class. Fastest lap is Jan's, most lap led is also Jan's as well, as we look over to Craig, who's got GT3 Pro-Am.
Yeah, remember, this is before any penalties are handed out, but Vitanov just absolutely dominated today. Look at that lead over Pascal Hall. Great result there. Andreas Germer will be in third. Remember, those two have penalties to serve. Nicholas Bopato will be in fourth, and Sven Landgraf will be in fifth. Stephen Freiburghaus will take sixth, and John and Maya, after that little crash at Ascari, recovers to seventh. Could have been a fifth today. Mirko Bruckner, though, will finish in eighth. And there is another page for the Pro-Ams, as we see at Loren Savanov in ninth. The Mario Bolino will take 10th, Dominic Yamal Neighbor will be 6th lap down, retired in 11th. Charlie Dulce as well will retire in 12th. Manuel Schaefer had that big incident. He'll be 15th. And Marco Petracchi, well, finishes 14th after what looked to be a hardware failure.
A real shame there in that regard, but sometimes racing does end up in that way, and there isn't that much that you can do and see for it. But Craig, I think it goes to show you that experience is what's going to pay off in these championship efforts. You cannot sit back and say, look, I'm going to be passive in these races. You've got to get to the front, and the responsibility is those who are at the front today, well, they just walked away, and it's not often you get to say that here at Monza.
No, usually when you have the slipstream here, you usually just stick with that all day. But for some reason, the top two runners in both classes had such a gap. They were able to control that gap, and it's been a while since you've been able to say that a car has made a gap and worked a gap here at Monza. It's been a great day in the office for the leaders, and you look at the top five, all of them with massive gaps to the rest of the field. It really was a clinical day if you're at the front of that pro field.
And what makes it even more interesting as well, Craig, is where we're finding ourselves next time we're running the GT Open, because if there is any like-for-like transition that you get yourself into, and we look at this here with the SimRacing Republic, the Red Bull Ring on August 2nd very much fits the bill of, well, if you liked Monza, you'll definitely like the Red Bull Ring.
Yeah, you take away the chicanes and just open up to tighter corners. And that's basically what the Red Bull Ring is compared to Monza. A lot of overtaking chances, a lot of chances to have slowdowns, so you get a little bit of everything here. This is the track that has slowly become a favorite for drivers on the sim. Bye-bye Monza, some drivers have been saying. Let's get into the Red Bull Ring. However, you've still got that risk reward, because down at turn 3 at the top of the hill, that can cause incidents, and that won't be the first time I say that.
No, and you can catch that with us at 2:25 UTC or 10:25 Eastern out there to go and get that all sorted. So that's going to be something to catch as part of a Genesis Extreme production. And while we do have a moment, because we know that Jan's on his way, let's talk about what's coming up then here on the Global SimRacing Channel, because we are not a million miles away. We're just 40 minutes off right now from the Classic Lotus Grand Prix Series, then heading over to the Dyno Test over at Barcelona. You can join me and Craig for that, as we will take our very express run over to go and make that happen. Queen City Formula Series, it's going to be over at the Hungaroring on Wednesday. You'll definitely want to jump in and check that one out on your Wednesday night's viewing. You've then got Skip Barber Race Series over at Lime Rock Park, and then you've got the Grand Prix Tour, which is just a game of who can get the most notches above at the moment. Also heading to the Hungaroring and getting that battle at 6:45 UTC to go and get that one all sorted out then into play. Craig, final thoughts then here as we get ourselves set and ready, because we are just still waiting about for this interview to come into play. But it has been for Monza a day in which Destiny, not just for Senkowski, has done well, but also the speed of Velin Vitanov.
I think both those drivers have put their names down as, you've got to try and beat me. And I do wonder if anyone's going to beat them, because that was just a clinical drive from Jan. Brilliant work there as well from Velen. And I do wonder if that could be the end of the day. But when you talk about drivers that are really fast, I hear a knock at the door, Jake. Someone's joining us into the booth. I think Jan is getting ready to come and say hello to us.
Absolutely. Jan Senkowski here with us now. And Jan, 2 wins out of 2, Sprint and Master. You couldn't have really asked for anything better of a drive for you. You got to turn number 1. You had clearance of a car length. And then in both races, it looked like you just decided, right, time to walk away.
Yeah, I was quite happy with the first laps in both races. Clean for me. Then I had a little gap to get the tires up to temperature. Kind of as slowly as I wanted it to preserve them in the first race, then managing the gap to behind, because might have been another lap. So I was trying to save fuel and not doing another lap, because Chris, my teammate, didn't have enough fuel, and I was really, really close. And second race, it was more of a strategy race, to be honest.
And let's talk about that strategy, because you come out of that first stop and you realise you're behind Marcelo Caserta. Was there any worry at that point? Did you feel, okay, I've got the fuel numbers that's going to get me back at the end of this race? Or was that something where it was, okay, we're going to sit down and we're going to see what he does next?
A bit of a mix. I wasn't too worried, because I knew I had like 2.5 seconds, maybe 3, worth of fuel against him. And then I was like, okay, I just follow and save some more fuel to stretch that out even more. So after the pit, the gap will be even bigger. And then I also noticed that he was way too quick on the straights. Like in the slipstream, I couldn't even follow. He was still pulling off. So I knew that fighting wouldn't be an option, really, with another pit stop coming. So I was just sitting and waiting, and then I think he made a mistake and got to slow down.
Let's talk next time out, August 2nd, Red Bull Ring. It seems like for you, what are you going to need to do between now and next time out? Because it looks like a circuit where all the principles that you have of that Ferrari are just going to apply directly over.
Red Bull Ring is a bit low speed track, because of the straights are really short, and the corners you go on the straights are quite slow. So it's a bit different than in terms of setup, whereas here straight line speed is basically all that matters, especially when you're fighting, and Red Bull Ring will be hard to fight.
Interesting. We'll keep that in mind for you, but go celebrate, because it's a big job. It's a big win for you and Team Huisingveld here today. Jan Senkowski joining us there and getting it done. Craig King has walked down the virtual paddock. He's with your Pro-Am victor, Velin Vitanov.
Yeah, Velen, congratulations today. It looked like it was pretty clinical in the GT AMs, but it also looked like it was a very good day out there for the overall victory battle.
Yes, thank you guys. Today I am very happy from my result. A little bit the car was very unpredictable and disgusting for driving, but despite that I am very happy with this win in Pro-Am.
Yeah, we talk about the Pro-Am. Absolute dominance today. What can you take from that victory for the rest of the season? Because it looks like you've put the measuring stick and told the drivers, you have to be faster than me, and it looks like it's going to be a challenge for drivers.
Yeah, from this victory I will take motivation, and I will try to continue to win all other races. I think Red Bull Ring is a very good track for me, but we will see.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you about the Red Bull Ring, because we do go there next time, as we were saying. We heard Jan saying it's going to be a little bit slower, but me and Jake feels it's going to be a little bit like Monza again. So do you feel like you've got the pace to not only win that Pro-Am, but once again try and harass Jan for the overall victory?
Yeah, I think I can win overall. Today, how I said already that I have problem with the car. The setup was disgusting. But for a Red Bull Ring, I think we will have a pro setup from Piondox or Haimo. And then I will be able to fight for the win, probably.
Aside from that, just before we let you go, is there any other track this season you're looking forward to? I know you said Red Bull, you really like Red Bull. Is there anything on the rest of the schedule that you're really looking forward to?
Can you repeat, please?
Is there any other track this season you're looking forward to?
Yes, I like very much Watkins Glen probably and Imola, but for other tracks I don't have.
Well, Velen, congratulations on the Pro-Am victory today, on a fantastic drive for yourself. We look forward to seeing you at the Red Bull Ring, and we look forward to seeing this pace that looks like you'll be able to bring with you.
Bye-bye, best wishes.
Velen Vitanov there, Jake, finishing the leader of the Pro-Am. We get both winners of the race today.
Yep, and they'll be in full command, looking to go and continue on in that regard. From the team, though, that's brought this show to you today, from Christian Deploy, who's been behind the scenes, Dougie Beard, who's been on cameras, Craig King, alongside myself, Jake Sperry. Dominance is a funny word because a lot of people don't like dominance, but ultimately, dominance is what sets the good from the great from the all-timers, and the all-timers from the legendary. I think that you need periods of dominance out there in your sport because it does indicate who is good, who is great, and who is absolutely undeniable out there in the world. And today, here in GT Open, well, I don't think we saw two good performances. I don't think we saw two great performances. I think we saw two all-time performances by both categories out there, and it looked very comfortable and very easy by what they both did. Velen Vitanov and Jan Senkovsky both know that they are lightning fast, and it might be a case between the pair of them that they start looking at each other at the next round. We'll see you, of course, at Red Bull Ring for the second round on August 2nd, but stay with us on the Global SimRacing Channel because in half an hour, we'll be back with racing action with Lotus 79s over at Barca.
This is iRacing. This is absolutely huge. Cannot script this right. Straight down the inside. Everyone into the corner. There's a bit of panel rubbing. Sanchez Gonzalez is around.